Hi everyone, it's Dion from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to create this cute little accordion fold card. We're going to be using a brand new set of images from Art Impressions. But first let's get started by cutting 3 panels. We're cutting these at 4 5/8 inches by 3.5 inches. And this is a lighter weight cardstock. I'm using a 65-pound weight cardstock. So we'll cut 3 panels, and then what I want to do is create a postage looking background for my card, and I didn't have any papers that suited that exactly the way I wanted it to look, so I grabbed some red, blue, and white cardstock, and I'm going to cut this down to 1/4 inch strips. So off camera I cut a whole bunch of these. And this is also a lighter weight cardstock that I'm using. I believe the red and blue are 80-pound and the white is a 65-pound. I just didn't want this to get too bulky because we are going to be folding that card like an accordion. So let's start off with the red, and I'm going corner to corner. That'll just make sure it's lined up perfectly if I start in the middle and go corner to corner, and then I start adding my red, white, and blue stripes. So I've placed plenty of tape on this panel to begin with. Now you could use a sheet of tape adhesive. I just used my little Tombow tape runner, and I applied plenty of tape to this panel. And you want to make sure you go right up to the edge because some of these little pieces are going to get very small. You can see I'm just letting that excess hang over the edge. And then I'll take my 9.5 inch titanium shears. I love these for doing these kinds of projects, and I can easily trim off all of that excess. So I did the same thing for the rest of the panel and cut away that excess, and then I did the other 2 panels again the same way. So for the card base, I took a 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock and cut 2 panels at 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and then I scored both of those at 5.5 inches. So that would be a standard A2 size top folding card. And what I'm going to do on one of these is just trim off a little tiny bit of that excess, so that when I butt these 2 panels up against each other, I won't have any overlapping. It'll fit in there just much easier. Now on one of the panels I want to apply some double-sided tape, so I've got some 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and I'll tape these 2 panels together. And also do keep in mind that all of the products I'm using today are listed and linked down below and also on my blog. And you can see now we have our little accordion fold. It's just a little fan fold. What I'm going to do is start off with the Snowflake frame dies from Art Impressions. You get the frame and you get these additional little snowflakes as well. I'll go ahead and run those through the die cutting machine. And I've switched over to the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. I've got my Tim Holtz pick tool, and I'm just going to pop these right out of the frame. And then I also die cut those extra snowflakes off camera. I've got 3 of the panels for our 3 sections of the card. And then here's the brand new stamp set. This is called the Santa's Workshop set, and it is just so adorable. There's tons of elves and sentiments, a little mailbox, there's a Santa. We're going to be using quite a few of these today. There's presents, and there's even little envelopes. And so let's go ahead and ink these up. I'm using my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I've placed those in my Misty stamp positioner. And then I also stamped a bunch of extras. Since I want this to be letters to Santa, the focus or the story that I'm telling are the letters to Santa. So I've got lots of little envelopes, and then we've got some packages and that little mailbox. So let's get started with the coloring. I did the cheeks in Sugared Almond Pink and Flesh Color, and then I've got May Green and Deep Green to do his little outfit. Now I won't color all of these on camera. I'm really just going to color the one, and then I'll be switching out the colors using a combination of reds, greens, and blues, and a little bit of beige. So that was my color palette. And what I'm going to do is just use the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens and my blender pen to do my blending. And look at all the elves you get. I mean, they're just so cute. There's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 elves, the little Santa, and I did his hair in beige, and then I'll do the little boots the same way. I'll just add a little bit of mid-brown to those. We're also going to be creating a really pretty background for our sky on these, and I'll show you a little ink smushing technique that's really easy to do, and you get beautiful results, and it's very simple. I've got geranium red for the collar and for his pants, and I'll just quickly blend those out. So I did the rest of the elves, again, in those combinations of blues, reds, and greens. I changed out the color of their hair. And then for the little envelopes, I'm just adding a little bit of shading, and I'll change up those colors as well to match the little elves. Oh, and I also did a few just in white, so I added a little bit of light gray to those. With my Pitt Artist pen, this is the 0.1 millimeter, I'm going to add some little stripes to this post, and that is a permanent pen, so when I do my coloring with my watercolor pens, I won't have any bleeding. I did heat set that quickly just to make sure it was nice and dry before I started my coloring. With light gray, geranium red, and deep red, we'll color in the stripes on this mailbox, and I did the light gray for the white stripes just to add a little shadow there. And then I'll add the 2 red colors for the rest of the stripe. And then what we'll also be doing is we're going to cut a little slit in that mailbox so that we can make one of the letters look like it's kind of coming out. I want to kind of create the look like all the little letters are kind of toppling out of the mailbox, that it's so full. So let's finish up the top portion of this. I did a combination of the red and green for the rest of the mailbox. And Art Impressions has a little collection of Christmas stamps and dies that are coming out. This is one of them, and I will be doing projects on all the other ones as they are released. And one of the nice things about all these little elves and even the Santa, you could combine these with any of your other sets. These little elves would be cute in front of a Christmas tree or in any kind of little scene, little winter scene. So have some fun with them and do mix and match them with your other sets. They're perfect. They have a lot of movement to them. They're like waving and jumping. So I always like when you get that kind of movement in the stamps, because then you can use them for all kinds of projects. So let's just finish up the base of this mailbox. And then for the top of the mailbox, I'll use gray, the 2 grays again, just to give a little shadowing. And I love that the dies are included with this set, so it's going to make it really easy to cut all of these out. And this is fun, just to sit and color. You could do all your stamping ahead of time, sit and color for an afternoon. These would be great colored with your Copic markers or your Distress watercolor pencils, whatever you prefer. Now for the packages, I'm just going to show you a couple of these that I quickly colored these in. Nothing fancy, but we can add a little detail to these later on with our gel pen. So we'll add some highlights to all of our images. We can add polka dots or stripes to the packages just to make them a little bit more interesting and make them a little bit different. I'll color in that bow really quickly, and then I'll color the rest of those packages in off camera. I did color some of the packages in the brown or the Kraft color as well, just to tie that background into our card as well. And then back to the sugared almond pink and the flesh color for his cheeks, a little bit of light gray on the beard and mustache, and then any of that fur trim on Santa's outfit. And I really like that he's a little bit bigger. Again, this image I think would be really cute on any card. Just with his little hand waving, you could say Merry Christmas and do a simple quick and easy, simple one-layer card. Back to the reds for his outfit. So our last scene will have the little Santa. He's going to be holding an envelope, and again, all those little envelopes are going to be spilling out of our mailbox. So this is going to be really fun. And I just want to make sure that I mention that to do the coloring, I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. So that's going to make it really easy to do my coloring and blending. I love this cardstock. It makes the blending so simple. It really does keep that ink up on top of the paper, and it's easy to move around. Now if you do get any extra ink where you don't want it to be, you can use that blender pen. Just pull that ink off your cardstock, scribble it onto your scrap paper, and you can keep doing that. Even if you want to lighten up an image a little bit, that's another thing that you can do. Is just pull some color off the cardstock and then scribble it onto your scrap paper. And also, you do want to scribble that blender pen onto your scrap paper when you're changing colors. Once it goes clear, you know you're good to go to your next color. So I switched over to gray to do the boots, and then let's finish up the pants with a little bit more of those reds. Just leaving a little shadowing there in between and kind of pulling that out towards the edges. And to do the mittens, I'm going back to the May green and the deep green, those same two greens we used before, and we'll just blend those out. So now that all of our coloring is done, let's go ahead and grab the coordinating dies, and we can go ahead and die cut these. But first, let me give you a close-up look at these cute little elves. They're just so sweet. So this is really fun to sit and color. I know there is a lot of coloring, but again, if you kind of do it a little bit at a time and really enjoy that process. And then I'll tape these down, the dies down, with a little bit of Post-it tape. I can run those through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And here's everything die cut. And then what I want to do, as I mentioned before, with this little mailbox, first what we're going to do is stamp that sentiment on the mailbox. And that comes from this same set, and it says Santa North Pole. So that's perfect, and it fits perfectly right at the top of our mailbox. And then I've just got my cutting mat and a cutting knife, and I'm going to cut a little slit there so that we can have one of our little envelopes kind of toppling out of the mailbox. With a 3" by 4" panel, I cut 3 of these. That's going to be the background for our snowflake frame. And I wanted to create some pretty skies. So I've got Stormy Sky and Weathered Wood. And these are the mini dye inks. These are a water-based dye ink. So I'll place that lighter color. I'm just patting it onto a clear plastic bag that I have. This is just a little storage pocket, but you could use any plastic or acetate you have. And I spritzed it with a little bit of water, and then I'm just kind of ink smushing it down onto my cardstock. I'll take and lay down that next color, spritz it with some water, and then we'll just kind of smush that down. You can keep going back. Now here I thought I needed a little bit more of that darker color, so I'm just going to clean off that area and then apply a little bit more of that darker color, spritz it, and smush it down onto my paper. And look at that background. And when you see this assembled, these backgrounds are just so pretty. Let's quickly do another one. So again, I'll start with my lighter color, just kind of smush that on there. And what's really fun is each one is going to come out a little bit different, and I really like that, each one. And I'm leaving some white areas so that it looks like clouds in the background. So I'm not trying to fill in the whole panel with color. We've got one more. Let's quickly do that last one. And you do want to clean off that plastic in between the colors. And you can also heat set between colors if you don't want any blending. But I was okay with that, so I just blended them while they were still wet. And now you can see these 3 beautiful panels we have. So we can glue our snowflake frames onto each of those. And then these will get attached to our striped background. So I've got some nice double-sided tape. I want something nice and strong. I want these to lay nice and flat. They do get a little bit warped when you're adding that water and ink, so to use your double-sided tape will ensure that these lay nice and flat on your card. So let's start laying out the design. This is my back panel. I want Santa, I want the little mailbox and some packages that were delivered, and also a little elf. And again, I want it to look like those little packages are just, or the little envelopes are just kind of tumbling out of that mailbox. And then this middle panel will have 3 little elves and another set of packages and some more envelopes. And this is the fun part, just laying everything out. You've got so many pieces to work with, so it's really fun. Once you have everything die cut, then you're really just kind of grabbing the pieces you need and doing your assembly. And then for the front panel, I'll have 2 elves, some packages, and some more envelopes. Now our sentiment will go on the inside of that first panel. So when you open that first panel up, you'll see our sentiment, and I'll show you that as well. So I'm going to tuck these in. I did glue everything flat for this card. Now you certainly could pop up a few items on the front panel and on the back panel if you wanted to. But I did decide to do everything flat because I did have quite a bit of dimension with the layered paper that we created, the striped background, the frame with the sky. So I didn't want it to get too bulky, but you certainly can again on your front and back panels. I'm using the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to attach everything down. That's a nice secure adhesive, so everything will stay attached really well. And I'm tucking some things in here and there behind that frame, some on the outside just to give it a really fun look. And again, I think these little elves are so interactive. They're jumping around, their hands are in the air. And on some of those where their hands are raised up, I put some envelopes in their hands. And then for the middle panel, again, I've got those 3 elves, a set of packages, and more envelopes. So I finished gluing those down off camera and let those dry. Now with the Hero Hues Unicorn Pigment ink, I'm going to go around the edges of this panel. Wanted to add a little bit of interest and kind of a snowy look to the panel. So I went ahead and went all the way around the 3 inside panels that are going to show and that front panel. And I just used the Tim Holtz foam applicator tool to add that ink. Now I've got some Doc P.H. Martin's white bleed proof ink. This is a super bright white ink. It'll stay really white on our cardstock. I've got a small number 0 paintbrush, and I'm going to spatter all of these panels. And that again is going to give us a really pretty snowy look. And on the Kraft cardstock, the white always looks so nice. So let's go ahead and center each of these panels on our card. And for the inside, we're going to leave that blank. That's where our sentiment is going to go on the left-hand side. On this right-hand side, we're going to glue this one down. And then we'll flip that to the back. So for this last panel, let's glue the last panel on. And I am making sure they're all lined up nice and straight across the bottom and the top. Now with those extra snowflakes that we die cut, and I did die cut a couple more sets of those because I wanted to add a few in here where our sentiment is going to go. And then I wanted to add a few to the snowflake frames that we've already created. So I'm going to add some here and there, again, just for a little more interest and just to fill in a little bit around those edges. And these snowflakes are so pretty. Again, another a set of dies that can be used for just about any winter project. There's a nice collection of really detailed ones, and then a lot of different sizes, some small ones and large ones, so it is a nice little set. So I continued adding a few more snowflakes, and now let's go ahead and stamp our sentiment. This is the Joyful Snowman set, and you can see all the cute little sentiments and all the cute little snowmen. They're just adorable. So I stamped that sentiment, "It's the most wonderful time of the year," on that inside panel. And then I'll use my white gel pen to add some highlights and a few details to those packages. And I also added a little bit of red and white twine off camera and tied a little bow. So let's take a closer look at the finished card. And if you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.